Hi everyone. How are you? How's everyone doing today? Taking a breath because I am continuing to lean into my one of my intentions for 2022, at least for this portion of 2022, to be vulnerably courageous, courageously vulnerable. And I'm going to keep coming on here every week as best as I can to do that with you all. And I want to talk with you all about something that actually is something I've actively been going through recently. I was talking in a small group. It was like a small group coaching container. I was talking in there earlier this week, and they were congratulating me about my upcoming book. Now, if anything I say resonates for you or brings something up for you, please feel free to comment below, ask questions. I love having conversation with you all. So if you feel comfortable doing that, please do. And then the other week, a mom friend of mine was pre-celebrating the success of my book as if it had already happened. Like a genuine smile was cast upon her face. And then earlier the other day, I can feel even just talking about this with you all right now, I can feel, I'm paying attention to some of the anxieties that I felt before around this topic. I can feel that happening. So good to be aware, right? So earlier the other day, a networking friend of mine celebrated me and my work and my book with such certainty of imminent success of my work and my book and the power of it. There was no doubt or disingenuous kind of tone in her voice. It was just pure belief and celebration. And then another day this week, I was talking to a colleague, and he was expressing his excitement about my book. And I started to tell him how I am actually allowing myself to celebrate and feel excited this time in my life. I'm actually allowing myself to celebrate something I'm proud of. I'm actually allowing myself to celebrate my vulnerability. I'm allowing myself to celebrate my growth and the challenges that I've navigated, both to even have the experiences that I had to have in order to write this book, like this book that I wrote, and also to get to the place of publishing a book like this one, a book that shares personal stories and personal struggles and personal learnings. Because historically, I've really struggled to celebrate myself. And for lots of reasons why, but because I didn't want to seem boastful. I didn't want people to be upset with me. I didn't want people to think that I thought they should compare themselves to me. I didn't want people to think I thought that I was better than them. I didn't want to seem selfish or come across like a know-it-all. I had so many fears surrounding celebrating myself, and I didn't even realize it. I always just told myself that I'd get it done. Whatever needed to be done, I would get it done. I was someone who set goals and I accomplished them. I put my mind to it, I get it done. I was a person who never gave up. I'd always persevere. That was expected from me, of me. So when I completed my first degree, my bachelor's degree, as a single mom, I carried my daughter on my hip across that stage as I accepted my diploma, because I was proud to be her mom. I was proud of her and all that she represented. But I couldn't fully celebrate me. I didn't feel a celebration of me. I didn't feel successful or accomplished or celebratory. Part of me actually felt like I had to do this to prove all the stereotypes and the judgments of me wrong. It felt more like, it felt less like a celebration and more like a fight against condemnation. Maybe some of you can relate to that. Or maybe me just putting words to that brings something up for you. When I earned my first master's degree as a single mom, still, it didn't feel celebratory. I set my mind to do it, and I did it. Right? That's what you do, Toni. You set your mind to it, you do it. But then on to the next goal I went. It's just what I expected of myself. It was the standard I held myself to. And honestly, it didn't feel like anyone else really cared what I accomplished, which is so ironic, right? If I'm trying to prove something through my accomplishments, but no one actually, I also feel like no one cares, like how ironic, right? Doesn't really fit together, does it? But my fears around not fitting in and not being understood, or whatever, all of those, I could go down a black rabbit hole with all that. I was allowing them, without knowing it at the time, I was allowing them to dictate way too much of why I did what I did. And it was affecting my ability to celebrate. My fears told me my accomplishments were annoying. They were annoying to other people at that point. So celebrating them would just make me a burden or a show off. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be cast as that. I didn't want to be seen as that. So what a catch-22. So Toni, you have to keep proving yourself through all of these accomplishments in order to prove that you're good enough, to prove that you're worthy, to prove that you fit in, to prove that people's judgments of you are wrong. But at the same time, it doesn't matter what you do because it's just going to be annoying, or it's going to be a burden, or no one cares. Like, what a catch-22 to put yourself in. But if you're not aware of the fears that are happening, the belief systems that are fueling your behaviors, you just feel stuck. You just keep doing it. And so that's what I was doing with most of my life. And it was disallowing me from really enjoying, really celebrating so many pieces of my life. So then when I entered into my second master's and my PhD program as a newlywed with an infant while planning a DIY wedding and starting a new job, I pushed myself even harder. I didn't even go to the graduation for my second master's. Most of my family and friends didn't even know I'd gotten a second master's for a while, if at all. Some of you might not even know still. Then, years later, after defending my dissertation between pumping sessions with my third infant in hand, I still didn't feel like I could celebrate myself. Because I knew I could do it, whatever it was. But I didn't believe the rest of the world believed in me. In fact, it felt like the rest of the world was judging me no matter what. This is what was happening in the back of my mind, whether I was caring to admit it or not, which I wasn't caring to admit. And it was fueling so much of what I was doing. Right? There was so much of me needing to prove that people who, my perception, people were judging me in this negative way. I felt like I needed to prove them wrong. Sure, momentarily, did I feel that I proved certain people wrong in their judgments of me? Yes. But even as I went through the events that were meant for celebration, like the brunch at my university for my PhD or the dinner at my mom's house, I still didn't feel like I could celebrate me. It didn't fit in my body. Like my body couldn't accept it. But this time, after I earned my PhD, this time there was a different problem. I didn't have another goal to look at. I didn't have another goal to work towards and rely upon in order to prove anything to me or anyone else. I'd met all my goals. I studied abroad. I earned multiple degrees, had my clinical license, had steady work, got married, owned my car, owned my home, had my third by 30. I'd done it all. And I still didn't feel worthy of celebrating me. I still didn't feel anyone would want to be bothered about celebrating me. It was at that point in my life when I really started to realize that freedom and fulfillment didn't come from goal setting and goal achievement, which was a smack in the face. If I were to pick a time in my life when I actually started to more cognizantly try to hit my reset button in my life, it would be around this time period that I'm talking about now after my PhD. And so in many ways, this time point was where my new reset book that's about to come out in 20 days, it's where it grew its initial roots. And so what happened was unplanned. I branched out into creating my own private practice. That was never a goal of mine. It wasn't pre-planned. So I branched out into opening my own private practice, then into coaching, and ultimately into the world of business ownership and entrepreneurship. And the road that I ventured down was so uncharted. It was unstructured. And unless financial, the achievements weren't so easy to measure or to show or to prove to anyone else, let alone to myself. Let alone to anyone else. And so what this uncharted road didn't have was a structured outline that delineated what I'd need to do, what goals I'd need to hit, what certain achievements or actions or tasks I needed to cross off, get done in order to say I did it. It didn't have that. This newly charted, uncharted, newly ventured road that I was headed down, it didn't have that, like schooling does, like degrees do, like clinical licensure does, like all of these other things in life do. And so I was thrust into a deeper form of personal and professional development than I ever expected. But that's a story for another day, because that's going to take us, there's so many stories about that. But ultimately, what this unexpected journey meant for me was that I'd need to look at the fears that were preventing me from being able to celebrate me for so long, from thinking I was a burden or I was annoying or I had something to prove. I had to look at the fears surrounding my need to prove myself to others. I had to have honest I had to be honest with myself, not just have honest conversations, but I had to be brutally honest with myself. I had to look inside and admit that I feared rejection, admit that I feared being misunderstood and unwanted. That's an awfully big pill to swallow, especially if you are someone who identifies as like an overachiever or high achiever in any way, shape, or form. I had to address the narrative that I'd embodied for most of my life, that my worth was somehow measured outside of me by what I did or what I gave or whatever I proved or what I sacrificed. And so I did a deep dive, and it took time and patience and faith. But that was necessary. It's necessary for all of us, anyone who relates to this at all. Because all of those fears were reasons why, all those stories were reasons why, all of those beliefs that I held, that I didn't even realize I held them. So I was unintentionally holding them in the background, right? But that was why celebration sucked for me. That's why celebration didn't fit in my body. That's why I couldn't feel it for myself. But now I can embrace it. And I'm celebrating that I can finally celebrate myself and feel good about it. And is it true that some people don't and won't embrace celebrating me or the book that I'm sharing or the work that I do or my mission or my vision? Yeah. I mean, I've experienced that. There are some that just are not going to embrace that. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Because it's also true that no one else can embrace any of it for me. Only I can do that. No one else can embrace any of it for you. Only you can do that. And when you do, when I do, it feels so different. Much different than how it felt before. Because this book isn't a goal that I've accomplished. The Reset, A High Achiever's Guide to Freedom and Fulfillment. It is not just a goal that I've accomplished. It's a part of my story. It's a part of my vision, my mission, my purpose, my passion. It's a meaningful, powerful, life-enhancing, life-changing part of my story that inspires others to experience that within theirs. And every story has ups and downs, ebbs and flows, various chapters, valleys, peaks, and hills. So I can either rest to enjoy this beautiful part of my story and celebrate all that's come with it, or I can let it pass by without experiencing the joy and celebration that it's worthy of. Either way, I've learned it's my choice. And the same is true for each of us, for each and every single one of us, because our stories will continue on. It's a matter of what parts we're going to allow ourselves to really be fully present for and enjoy, and what parts we're going to try to rush through or just otherwise avoid. And so with this, I encourage you to celebrate. See how it feels. See if there's areas for growth for you that are unique to you. Maybe what I shared isn't fully resonant for you, but there's other pieces that have been pulled up for you that are resonant. See how it feels for you. See where you could grow through that. And know that regardless of what you discover, your story isn't done. And that's a really good thing. It really is. It's a really good thing. And so with all of this that I've shared with you today, I come on here because as I said, like, have actively been allowing myself to further explore this recently with my Reset book coming out and allowing myself to celebrate that. I would love to hear what you're celebrating. I would love to hear your experience with celebration. And I'd also love to hear if you have ideas for me for ways to celebrate, because I am in the brainstorming process of how I want to celebrate this momentous, joyous, beautiful, exciting, life-enhancing occasion that I am allowing myself to lean into. Would love to hear from you if you feel called to share questions, comments, contributions. We all have value to add. And so if any of this connects with you, please feel free to reach out, comment below, share an emoji, share this video if you know someone else needs to hear it, because we're all worthy of celebration, but we don't need to look outside of ourselves for others to validate that. And we're a social species, so we have a habit of doing that. But know that once you choose to own and claim that you are worthy of celebration because you are you, because of what you've navigated, because whatever the because is for you, you're worthy of celebration, and you're allowed to embrace and embody that and feel that in your body. And it's okay. It's okay for you to do that, whether or not someone else agrees or not. I hope that you can take that with you in whatever way fits or works best for you, serves you best today, tomorrow, and for always. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging with me. I hope you have an amazing weekend.